Hey, everybody, I'm Becky Droz. Thank you for tuning into the Guerrilla HR podcast. As always, I'm going to start out with a current event. Everybody in the US, unless you are hiding under a rock, knows that we have been in kind of a crazy time. We have been seeing a lot of very public firings and terminations or disciplinary things related to people's political comments. And it's raising a lot of questions for a lot of employers. Even some of the people in my network with some smaller businesses, whether they're the owner or they work there, are asking me a lot of questions around free speech and what they can and can't say. And the thing is that while we do have the First Amendment that protects free speech, it doesn't prevent private employers from having policies around speech. So, given that we have the employment at will doctrine, which is again, you can hire, you can fire, you can take employment actions for basically any reason. Of course, we always have to have that caveat of we need to make sure it's not discriminatory, that we're not running afoul of Title VII. We also want to make sure that we're not violating anybody's National Labor Relations Act rights and protected concerted activity. So there are a lot of different parts and pieces to this, but generally, yes, a small employer, a private employer, I shouldn't say small, but a private employer can take action against people for political speech, even if it happens off the clock. That being said, I would tell you think about the situation in totality. What are the types of comments? What are the things that people are saying or doing? And really, again, look at the whole picture, the whole situation. Don't just pinpoint it on one thing. Because even though there are things that sometimes we can do as an employer or things that we can do as an individual, as an employee, it's not always the right thing to do and it may not make sense. So, before you take action against anybody, think about the consequences, think about the effects, and really make sure that any decision you make for any employment action is something that you're really willing to stand by. Think about if your company was, the headline when you open your browser. You want to make sure that you're not doing anything that's going to risk your organization, your reputation, and all those good things. So, protect yourselves, protect your employees, protect your organization, but make good decisions and be good humans. All right, let's get into our topic. Today, I have Bill Casco with us. Bill is the president and CEO of Frontline Source Group, which is a nationwide professional staffing agency and executive search firm. And Bill started this company 21 years ago. So he is quite an expert in this field. And I actually am curious, though, Bill, I know you describe yourself as a tech guy. So tell me, how in the world does a tech guy start a professional staffing company?
All right. So first thing, since everybody else doesn't know this, we've literally just spent the last 15 minutes trying to get it hooked up right, and I'm having to wear a goofy one-eared kind of microphone thing to make this work. So it appears that I failed at the tech side of things, and I didn't have any other choice but to go into this world of recruiting. So what a great way to start this whole thing
I,
off.
I
So
was going to keep your secret. I was not going to tell
uh,
anybody.
it's okay. It's all right because I think that's the beauty of it. But listen, first, thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, it's a great kind of story because it's like what leads you to all these different things in your life, in the world, and what we do every single day. And you start off on a track of doing one thing, and it leads you down another. And that's the beauty, I guess, of kind of going through life and growing up as you start one thing and it leads to the next. Reality is that, and apparently it's confirming I didn't like tech that much, right? And so,
I think
but
tech did not like you.
yeah, I think that's it too. I mean, again, this is wonderful. Just the picture of that. I mean, even my background didn't work today. It opened up a door to something new, and it opened up a door to really was at the heart of things, which was embracing in conversations with people, learning about businesses. I mean, one of the things you find with tech people, especially when it's like if it's coding or it's support, technical or functional, is that they love people, because at the end of the day, they're trying to either fix, solve, or teach someone something that they don't know because it's the unknown. And so that opened up the door to a phone call with someone who said, "Hey, have you ever thought about selling IT?" And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, what are you talking about? And so I literally went in and interviewed for this role with a Fortune 500 company, and I didn't even ask how much it paid. I mean, it was like I love this. All right. And then I went home to tell my wife. And by the way, 9/11's just happened, and she worked
Mm,
at American Airlines and is about to lose her job. And she's like,
wow.
"Well, how much does it pay?" And I go, I don't know, but it's going to be fun. I'm going to go
Bill,
sell
you have
people.
to listen to some of my other podcasts because I talk all about compensation. So you
Oh,
gotta, you know,
well,
could
I
have
don't have
could
that
have been could have been
conversation.
helpful back then, but I guess we're
Yeah.
past that now.
Yeah. It would have been very helpful. I just said, I don't know, But it sounds like it's going to be fun. And she said, you're going to sell people as contractors, and we've just entered in a recession and nobody's hiring. And I go, I know. Can you believe it? Uh, and that's what I did.
Sounds
And
amazing.
it was amazing. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Wow. So, in my world, I love to talk about total rewards and comp, and I will sit all day long and work with employers to help them make sure that they've got that value proposition right so that when they're looking for people, they know what they're offering. When they're trying to keep people and reward them, they know what they need to do. But I can tell you that in my entire 20 something HR career, the one thing that I truly despise is recruiting. That whole process of posting a job and trying to find the right person and going through resumes, hate all of it. Everything about it to me is torture. So I am glad that we have people like you that excel at that and really enjoy that work that are here to help us. So one of the things that I would really like to know in this day and age in particular is what are people using to find that match? So
Yeah.
that'll be the question. But I often hear, we're in a softer labor market. We're starting to see unemployment go up and fewer jobs available, fewer openings. People are holding on to their jobs. But then I still hear from employers who say, "No, I have jobs open. I just can't find the right people." So there's this
Right.
disconnect. So with this disconnect from the job seekers and the employers, where do they go? How do they find each other?
Okay, so there's like 27 different things within that statement, right? And so I kind of want to flash back
Sure.
because the whole realm of recruiting has changed. Let's say over the last 20 years. Just
Mhm.
take let's take a snapshot of just 20 years. And so maybe from a technology perspective, it's really great that I actually had that background because it took 20 years for the industry to catch up with technology in real time of what's taking place. HR departments, hiring managers, companies, they've always been lagging when it comes to technology behind. That's all there
Mhm.
is to it.
Yep.
Part of that is that what we do is a very personal thing. So in the older days, 25 years ago, the fax machine would run. It would run all weekend. We'd come in, we had paper, we had to look through them. It was very time consuming. And when you had a quote pool of people that we used to call it a pool,
Mhm.
it would take so many hours to go through the resumes to try to sort, figure out the fix, figure out are they even
Yeah.
viable, is it work for it or not. It was so time consuming, and it was overwhelming. You were trying to
Mhm.
satisfy and take care of as many people as possible, and it was also a very rewarding time. There was a lot more respect when it came to job seekers 20, 25 years ago for what a recruiter did, whether it was internal or external,
Mhm.
because it was our time and we could influence and change a lot of things that could help push a person down the road for their career.
Yeah.
During that timeline, though, we've gone through a lot of change, right? We've gone through a Great Recession, we've gone through recessions, we've gone through COVID. We've also gone through in the last 4 years what's called the Great Resignation. To call it two and
Mhm.
a half, 3 years ago. And I bring all of this up because as we've gone through this, we've gone through a time when you had employers were in charge and very few times when a candidate, an individual looking for work, was in charge. The
Yep.
Great Resignation was the first time in 20 something years that the employee or the candidate was in charge.
Yep.
All right. So what was the Great Resignation if you're not familiar with it? It was a time for anybody who wanted to make a change, to take their kind of dip their toe out there and see what was available, because you had every recruiter on earth calling you, even if you weren't looking, because there were so many opportunities after COVID to look at a new opportunity. And you go, you know what, I'm open to it. They would have maybe an interview, maybe they would do one phone screen, they'd get a job offer, and the offer would be 10 to 15, 25 to 30% sometimes more than what
Yeah.
they were currently making. People would look at it and go, man, I know I've been here for 20 years, but by gosh, that's 30% more than I'm making. We can go on some trips. So they're going to throw in an extra week of vacation. I'm taking it. They
Yep.
turn their 2 week notice in. Their company would go, hang on a minute, Bill, just hang tight, because what if we came back and we gave you a pay increase? Oh, well, they're also giving me 2 weeks extra vacation. Maybe it was only one. Okay, let me see what we can do. The employer would come back and they would go, if we hire a recruiter, it's going to cost us 25% of their annual salary. We're going to have to retrain, and all of that intellectual property that we've given this person for 20 years is out the door. We're going to have to train someone brand new. We're going to have to find them. We're going to have an empty void for 6 months, give them a 20% increase, give them a couple of weeks of vacation. They took it, they stayed. And then
Mhm.
the other employer was like, you're kidding me. We got to go back and look again. Okay. We warned everybody. Not a good move, guys.
Yep.
I'm telling you, because the market will tank at some point. They will remember this. It's going to leave a mark. Fast forward after the election getting through, we thought, here we go in January. That's exactly what we're in right now. It's a different time to go through all of this because now the employers had to cut back, but we have a tight market. We'll talk about that. But you also had those individuals who did the Great Resignation, a large portion were the first ones to be asked to leave.
Mhm.
Now, we're in a tight market. We're in a market where we have a shortage of skilled individuals. What does that mean? It means it's still a good market, but you're not going to get that pay increase. In fact, you're going to see now that the employer is back in charge. So the employer is coming back and offering less money, but now they want that individual with that skill set times 5. And so it's gone up. Why are we in a tight market? Because all we hear is that everybody's being let go and what's going on. All the people that are over here on the sidelines that maybe didn't jump in there in the Great Resignation, they're just itching. They are just like they want to be in the market, but they're scared to death to leave where they're at and be the last one in the market tank, which
Yeah, they're
means
holding on for different reasons. It may not be
they
that that job
are.
is so fulfilling or that they're getting everything they want out of it. It's out of fear.
They are. And so what they're doing is they're laying it up. So going to your question is important to understand where we've been to where we're at, because what they're doing now is all of a sudden, why have you seen in the last 18 months, pretty good number, let's say, this massive increase in people joining specific networking platforms like a LinkedIn?
Mhm.
This is why. All of a sudden, they're hearing LinkedIn's the place to be. Employers, LinkedIn's the place to be. Activity, be on LinkedIn, start getting your stuff out there, be active, connect with people. Because the moment we see, which we did, which is interesting, we saw this actually happen when they announced interest rates came down just a quarter point. We saw an incredible uptick in the request from the employers. Hey, light it back up. We want to hire all these people. And by the way, we want them in a week. And you're like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
That's
that was
another,
never
that's a
gonna
whole
happen.
nother, that's a
You're
whole
never gonna
nother
get anybody in
episode.
a week.
No, that's a whole nother, in
Yeah.
fact, that scares us. But we watched this massive increase that's taken place of people being actively involved, still sitting on the sidelines, entertaining phone calls, but being more active to have their information out there
Mhm.
in order to be ready that when it really is a feeling, because that's what we go with. When we feel secure, if there's a possibility to even have ever a time of that, that we'll make a jump, or someone's going to offer me something that's better in line with what I want,
Mhm.
or I'm going to be ticked off at my employer because they're going to make me work in the office 5 days a week. I only want to be there 3,
Yep.
or whatever it may be. Something's going to trigger, and now at least I have some eggs out there ready to
Yeah.
hatch.
You've already
We
got your
don't,
presence established out there versus now I'm
yeah,
behind everybody else.
we don't have job boards anymore, right? So the day of the job board, I mean, you have Indeed and ZipRecruiter are not job boards. Okay, that
Mhm.
they're a technology platform, an aggregate that's actually working to help you get something.
Mhm.
Monster Career Builder, I mean, they filed for bankruptcy this year. I mean, they're it's not where we're headed, but the big juggernaut out here, right? It's AI, and the AI and what it's doing is disrupting everything. It's
Mhm.
disrupting the industry from the recruiting to HR departments to individuals. It's interrupting how we even live and interact, how we communicate. But it's a blip. It is no different than 45 years ago when my dad came home with our first microwave that took 4 of us to carry it in the house and told us that the IHOP and Denny's would no longer have cooks because they're going to be gone and the
Mhm.
microwave is going to solve it all. Well, it's helped. It makes my popcorn a lot better. It's great when my wife's not home and I have to reheat my dinner. It's fantastic for something quick to eat, but we still go to restaurants and we still have chefs. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, we are in an anomaly of time of being hit with all of these different things and anticipating change and working through it to figure out where do I need to be to both find opportunity as an employer, where do I need to be to find people? And as a recruiter, we're having to learn how do we live in the middle of all of this and make ourselves more valuable to both parties, but even more efficient by utilizing less resources and covering more ground. Because
Mhm.
when it does turn, and it will, we're right there. That it's all we need is some really positive stuff to happen, and you're going to see this all of a sudden boost. Employers are understaffed. Their employees are overworked. They're tired. Their people are tired, and that's the best
Yeah.
way to look at
I
it.
think burnout and quiet cracking have told us that is very much the case. People are
Yeah,
definitely feeling that, they're doing more than they can really handle,
that
and
is
their
correct.
work-life effectiveness is suffering.
Yeah, we hear that more than anything. We hear because we go to the why. We're always asking why are you even open to having a conversation?
Mhm.
And it's not the money. That's not really it. It's about, look, can I work 1 day a week from home? I was so much more efficient not having to talk to everybody and tell them what I'm doing on the weekends or not being there on a Monday. And you look for that and you're like, I don't make the rules. Um, and there's been a lot of just unknowns of what's coming out there for companies also.
Mhm.
We have the tariffs. We don't know. How does that really affect? We don't know. And then we have just the world itself, and then politically, and there's
Yeah, we've
just
got
so many
so much
things.
uncertainty that is
There
leading
is.
a lot of people, I think, to just kinda hit pause because they don't know what's
Yeah,
gonna happen. And so
exactly.
we're just we're kind of all on hold right now, waiting
Yeah.
to see where we go.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the unemployment and having some people back in the market, the question really comes down to, is that bad? If you really think about COVID, and 13, let's call it 13% unemployment, just to make it easy
Mhm.
on us, right? 87% were still working. Okay, it's a horrible number. I understand.
Yeah.
But we were getting to the mix where that pool was no longer a pool. It wasn't even a pond. It wasn't even a bird feeder. It's like a Dixie cup, right? With little drops of water in it. Because as soon as someone was out on the market, they were gone. And
Mhm.
what we have today is that, yes, we have people in the market. We do. And absolutely. And it's more difficult for kids coming out of college to
Oh,
find
yeah,
opportunity.
unemployment for new grads is,
Yeah.
like, closer to 7% compared to the 4.5 for everybody else.
But peel it back and understand why. If I have another conversation with someone graduating from college who tells me that they're not taking that first position for less than $80,000 a year, I want to scream.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? And so there's
I
also
think
this.
that's part of it though, but I think also the employers are saying, I'm gonna hold on to what I've got for right now, and I'm gonna keep the people who can do the work because I don't know that I can afford to invest the resources in bringing somebody in to train them, somebody who is brand new and they don't have any skills yet. Not their fault, they don't. So
Well,
I think
that's
like part
that's
of
a
that
huge
being on
part.
hold and then the
Yeah.
combination of I totally agree, people having just unrealistic expectations.
That unrealistic expectations is the number one item that comes up, right? The second part, like the employer is willing to train them if they have that work ethic that kind of comes behind it, right? Or they have that drive, not the individual who comes in. The first question is, so tell me about your benefits and my time off,
Sure, sure.
right? I mean, I
This,
mean,
I think,
this,
then circles back, though, to the whole issue with AI, right? Because if we're saying, like, even to your early point, that the recruiters have lost their clout and their status to be influencers because people think, like, we can rely on machine learning to build the resume, to
yeah,
post it out there, and then we're relying on somebody else's machine to go in and read it, and it's taking away that human piece. So I think that's
that's right,
where, like, it's getting lost for everybody, whether it's that seeker or that recruiter or the organization, because that human piece of it to know like, well, what does your work ethic look like? Are you a
right,
cool person? Do we
yeah,
even want to see you in an office 3 days a week? Or are you, crabby?
right.
The machines can't tell you that.
No, they can't, and they can't drill down into information that's not in your resume, right?
Yeah.
So, some of those things are talking about, and especially if we want to focus on like the college individuals, it's talking about things that aren't on there because they don't want a
Mhm.
5-page resume. So did you work? Were you involved in a sorority or fraternity? Were you involved in nonprofits or something? What in a church, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because that has an actual effect where they're like, all right, interaction, speaking with people.
You've got some
How is that
transferable skills.
exactly? Because the soft part of it they can teach, but it's still that there's so many things that are discussed that we hear. I want 8 to 5. That's not what the employer is looking for. And also, it goes back to your point about the training. That gap of what they're missing right now are
Mhm.
those individuals that have been there, 3 to 5 years. If you look from the Bureau of Labor statistic numbers and you look at every
Yeah.
2 years, and we actually have it on our website,
Yeah.
and we post it because they only put it out
I
every
know
two
where you're
years.
going here. I look at this too.
The average tenure in a job is 1.8 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we got
Yep.
a problem, people. There's a
Yep.
bigger problem. Now, here's the interesting part. Does an employer want to hire someone who's been at the same company for 20 years
No.
versus someone who's moved around 4 times every 5 years? In the answer, you are correct. No, they don't. Why do they not want to do that? Well, Bill, this is the $1 million question. And if I was a
Yeah.
consultant, this is what I would sell it. Companies that grow, mid to small companies, not public Fortune 500s, how do they learn about other companies in their space and what's going on? They hire from the competition. They hire from other
Yeah.
companies to
Incredible
learn.
business intelligence can come out of the recruiting process.
Unbelievable what you
Yeah.
can find. But that person, and God help their soul, who has been working on the AS 400 for the last 30 years,
Yeah.
who,
Yeah.
by the
We're not
way,
in Kansas anymore.
we actually have a client who has a need to hire, and I'm like, why don't you just switch off the AS 400? I mean, just make the move, right? And I love IBM, but good Lord, I mean, that's all they've done. And
Yeah.
so, now that funnel of opportunity is smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's not just one area; it's multiple pieces of this thing.
For
And
sure.
we have been hit with it's like a hurricane and a tornado and a tsunami and and all of this at the same time on the same city, and it's just all of it hitting us from different directions. And
Yeah.
I wish there was I wish I could just go done, and I can't.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing I'll say is that if you find a job, if any of your clients are looking for somebody for 100K a year to pet puppies for 2 hours a day,
Yeah,
I'm a great candidate.
yeah.
And I
Underwater
want you to
basket
look me
weaving.
up.
That's another good one. That's another one. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough time. So what would you say, like, in what are like, give me your top 3 tips for somebody who is looking for a job right now? Like, what do they need to do to set them apart?
This is going to sound horrible. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to absolutely sound horrible when I say this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Follow through.
Mm,
That's it.
okay.
This is not like I don't have a PhD in this. This is so simple. When you ghost someone,
Mhm.
when you submit your information and they call you and you don't call them back, it's like, are you just stupid?
Mhm.
I mean, just call them back. Now, I'm going to say the same thing for the employer
Yeah, I was gonna go there. I was
because
like, it goes both ways on
no,
that one.
the employer is just as bad.
Yeah.
And I will tell you a funny little story. About 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when Southwest Airlines became our client for the first time, we went in for our quarterly review. We sat down. They said, Bill, we got a problem. I'm like, what's the problem? They go, your people that you're sending to us, and we interview them at phone screen, and we set them up for an interview. They don't show to their interviews. And it doesn't happen for us because we're Southwest Airlines. And it happened to you guys. Horrible job. I'm like, this is what's going on. I mean, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
other than driving them, we're doing this. Oh, it doesn't happen ever. Next quarter, we go in for our meeting. You're not going to believe what's happening. I go, oh, please tell me. People are not showing up to our interviews. I'm like, no kidding. Welcome to the party.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This creates a problem. It creates an animosity with the individual looking for the employment, and it creates a terrible feeling for the employer
Yep.
who gets upset about that, and it really just ticks them off. Now things happen, But I can tell you that on an average week, 4 out of our, let's call 10%, let's say on an average week, we have 40 people interviewing with clients across the place. 4 of them for sure will have flat tires, 100%. At least 4 will have some type of a family emergency and a death in the family,
Mhm.
guaranteed. And at least 4 will be sick. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's a point when you just have to call it's BS. You
Yeah,
give a
for
little bit
sure.
of grace, right? You give a little bit of grace. But what's bad is that when you go to follow up to do the reschedule, they ghost you. And it's
Yeah.
like, why couldn't you have just told me that? But the
Yeah, just
employee,
say you're not interested for both
that's
ways.
right. But
Like,
employers do it
yeah,
to us. They do it to us as
yeah,
well. And so
yeah,
that's the biggest thing I can say is that
yeah.
if you're going to make a commitment to, and you can differentiate on this thing. If you're going to make a commitment to make a career change and make a change from where you're at today, or you don't have employment, communication is your number one winner. Not ghosting someone, doing an interview, and sending an email, because usually time is of the essence anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, do a handwritten note and drop it in the mail that day, just if you can. I know it's difficult. They may not get that handwritten note until 2 weeks after if they work remote. The
Mhm.
impact it has is huge. And then the last thing, connect with that person that you're interviewing with on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is at the beginning of really their movement. They're not there yet. If you look at all the social, and I'm not promoting them in any shape or form, I don't get paid. It's not a commercial. It's reality. HR departments use it nonstop. They're
Yep.
looking for people that are communicating. Are you a subject matter expert at whatever you may do? Because if you are, you're probably following people that do that. You're commenting. Maybe you're in groups. Get involved in that, but extend a branch to those people that you're doing an interview with. That shows you have to differentiate. You have to stand out in the crowd, and it also gives you an opportunity if you don't hear from them back to then, hey, thanks for connecting with me. By the way, is there any update on this? And I think that if you start pushing from that side of it, you'll feel better about your search. Also, your search, if you're not working, that's a full-time job.
Oh,
That
yeah.
when you're
Oh, yeah.
searching, you need to be up and at your computer, dressed. Take a
Yep.
shower, get dressed to go to work, be ready at 7:30 in front of your
Yeah. That
computer.
is a job in and of itself.
You track it, you log every submission you send, you follow up with people, you have it logged, you're making phone calls, you take time for lunch, you do it just like a job. And then you work the entire day. It is a full-time job. These people that don't do that are not taking it serious. And for those people, I don't have a lot of empathy for that, because we're contingent. We're successful because we place people. In order to make a living, pay for our families and everything else, we have to be communicating with people that are serious. You have to show up to your interviews. We invest time in hours of time, maybe with that one individual. But if it's not a good fit for you, we can't force the employer to hire you.
Yep.
That's the other frustration,
Yep.
is
For sure.
that if you're not a fit, you're not a fit. I can't help you with that. And so
Yeah.
don't think we're doing a bad job. We're not. But if I make them mad, I get cut off also. And so we live in this really gray area of trying to satisfy, but do your part and come to the game ready to play.
Yeah, I love that. And I think those are all like really great tips, especially the follow through. I hear that from people at all levels. I have people that are, some friends, some former colleagues who are interviewing for senior level CHRO type of jobs. And even in some of those, they get ghosted. And it's like, this is
Yeah.
unbelievable to me.
Well,
And
the
it
letter
really
is
sets the
huge.
tone. Yeah. Well, but
So
it sets
like,
the tone too, because like if that organization just ghosts them, I was ghosted once many, many years ago. I interviewed with a company in person a couple times. They flew me down to the company headquarters, and it was the worst day I've ever had. Like, it was the
yeah,
most horrible interview. The people who were in charge of the organization were absolutely awful. They asked me all these illegal questions. I was like, I will never work here for
you,
sure.
you interviewed
And I
at
guess they
Enron.
felt the same way, but no, it was not Enron. But no, but they then ghosted me.
Yeah.
And it was like, we knew that that wasn't going to work, but you could have at least sent me a letter. You could have at least said something. And then eventually, I think maybe 2 weeks later, I sent the like, thank you, appreciate that opportunity. This is not the place for me, even though clearly we had all
Yeah.
we
It's
had all figured that
respect,
out. But it's
right?
respect because now that company, I want nothing to do with them.
That's right.
Products
That's
that they
right.
have, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like
You know,
they've
it
burned their reputation to me is not great because of that experience, even though the ways that I would engage with them now have absolutely nothing to do with my career.
it's interesting too. The handwritten letter, it sounds old fashioned,
Oh
right?
my God, I love snail mail. So
Well, but let me tell you, when my mail's on my desk, those handwritten ones are the top ones. They're the
sure.
first ones I see, and it has an impact. Yeah, I open it, you read it, you're like, wow, they took the time. A thank you card is just, it's powerful. And
Yeah.
so even when you post something, if you look at on LinkedIn and you post something and someone makes a comment, take the time to go back and tell them, hey, thanks. If it was like your
Yeah.
birthday, thank you. But take a look at who that person is. Take a look at what does that person mean to you? Because what's that connection? Utilize those connections to be a networking opportunity because you never know. But if you're able to see, hey, that person communicated with me, that's a sign.
Yes.
And it's stupid that we are in a position today in this world where we're forgetting about communicating in something so simple to
Yeah.
have respect for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. So lead with respect and do your follow through. So great
Yeah,
advice. Everybody, I hope that you have taken away some really good tips from Bill, some good information about things that we need to do. It certainly follow through, make it your full time job if you're looking for a job, follow up, connect with people, rely on those skills that you have to do that outreach and make that real connection. Bill, thank you so much for being here.
appreciate it
And
so
I
much.
wish you a great
Thanks
day.
for everything. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. All right, we are getting ready to close with, oh my God, Becky, look at that comment, as we like to do. So, I recently posted a video on TikTok, and it was about the pay ratio from CEOs at some large publicly traded the S&P 500 companies and comparing CEO pay to the median worker pay. And I had commented about Ross in particular and that Barbara Rettler, who's a CEO, made 17 million last year in total comp. And I know that that includes stock and other things. It's not just, cash money going to her bank account. I get that. And so I talked about Ross because while that pay ratio, the median for these organizations is 192 to 1. However, with Ross, that pay ratio is 1,770 to 1. So that means the CEO there, she is making 1,770 times the median pay for employees in her organization. So I posted a video about this, and one of the comments, the person said, if you took that 17 million and divided it amongst all of their employees, it's only $150 per employee. And then they added on, it's called math. Thank you for that little piece of advice. So, to Mr. or Mrs., Miss, whatever, whoever, it's called math. My point is not that that person shouldn't make 17. My point is that should that person be making 17, but also let's look at the wages of those low earners. Even if that's part-time, even if that's somebody who's a cashier, somebody working in a store, maybe it's part-time driving a forklift or moving materials. Whatever it is, whatever those jobs are, what I would like people to think about is the fact that those low level workers working in the stores, they are the ones who are shaping the consumer experience. When I walk into a Ross store, my day to day, like how is my experience and do I want to come back into the store? It's not shaped by the CEO. It's not. It's shaped by that person who's there in the store, who's going to help me, who's going to check me out, who's taking my payment, and all of those things. So I do think that the CEO pay ratio is really interesting. I would encourage people to go out, look at proxy statements, and look at organizations that you either buy from or purchase services, whatever it is, and take a look and see, does it align with the values that you have when it comes to how people should be paid? So it's called math. I'm not talking about taking that money and distribute. I'm talking about let's look at making an economy where workers at all levels can be successful and they can also pay their bills. All right, y'all. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in.
That's it for this episode of the Gorilla HR Podcast. We hope you found some unconventional wisdom and actionable advice to help you in your own HR journey. Remember, we're all working together to build better workplaces. Want to join in the conversation? Send us your questions, stories, and maybe even your own guerrilla tactics to podcast@gorilla-hr.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your network. Until next time.